to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs, and we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
Welcome back to Legendary Foods Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today is Thursday, September 1st, 2022. And let's find out what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. Have you ever heard the quote, "I don't fear the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who's practiced those kicks 10,000 times." Because if you've seen any of the stuff that William Martens has been putting out lately, you can't help but get the vibe that he's one of those practice the same kick 10,000 times kind of guys. In the 2 times that we've seen him already this year, he's shown the ability to get progressively better. And the fact that he's taken a few months between shows to keep fine-tuning the machine would lead you to believe that the next time he steps on stage, he should be, 2 to 3 levels above what he was back in June when he placed 3rd at the Muscle Contest Brazil. Even at this early stage of his career, he's shown that he can still land there and trade shots with some of the best bodybuilders that we have in the business. And with a few more small improvements, he could easily end up punching his ticket to the Olympia before the regular season is all said and done. Regardless of what the industry you're in is, whether it's bodybuilding, fitness, or anything else, at the end of the day, success or failure really boils down to your ability to execute. And right now, from the outside looking in, execution seems to be the name of the game for Sergio Oliva Jr. Over the last few weeks, as he started to become more active with his social media, one of the things that really stands out about Sergio's training is the execution and his attention to detail, which probably explains why he's blown up to the degree that he has. Getting healthy and staying healthy has been a major hurdle for Sergio over the last year or 2. But now that he's back firing on all cylinders, he's starting to look more and more like the guy we saw dominate certain lineups when he was at the peak of his powers a few years ago. So if he can continue to execute on a high level and avoid the major setbacks, it will be interesting to see if he could be a potential dark horse as we head down the back end of the schedule. Bodybuilding is like any other sport in the sense that injuries are an unavoidable part of the game. And unfortunately, that's a hard reality that Petar Klancir had to come to grips with recently. Last week, Petar announced on Instagram that he had to undergo surgery for a torn bicep tendon, which will effectively put him on the shelf for the rest of the season. One of the really unfortunate things about this with Petar is that he was just in the midst of trying to make a comeback after being away from the sport for the better part of the last 3 seasons. And up to this point, he'd put together a couple of really impressive outings that made people remember why there was so much buildup around him when he turned pro a few years ago. But with that being said, Petar did go on the record to say that surgery was a success and that he was planning to get back into the gym as soon as next week, which will hopefully shrink the timeline on his recovery. When he's healthy, the guy has one of the most unique physiques in all of bodybuilding. So if he can rehab himself well and he can stay on the right side of the injury bug, there might be an outside shot that we see him back in action at some point before the summer of 2023. Now, on the flip side, every once in a while, we get to do a positive story about an athlete actually shaking the injury bug off and making a potential comeback, like we're about to do now with one of our longtime friends of the show, Mahmoud Al Durrah. Some of you might remember that the former 212 Olympian actually announced that he was retiring from competition a few years ago due to some pretty significant back injuries that limited his ability to train at an elite level. But much to the delight of all the Durrah Nation fans out there, recently Mahmoud announced that he was planning to come out of retirement to compete again, potentially as early as 6 weeks from now, which would really be something if he can pull it off. Back when he was at the peak of his powers, Durrah was good enough to win almost any show in that division on any given night. So if the new Durrah can be anywhere close to as good as he was a few years ago, watch out, because he can end up being a real X factor down the stretch. And that does it for yet another edition of Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, reminding you to always be true to your passions and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.